Liberty Speidel, and I am trying a new thing on my blog, and that is to do vlogging. So, I've been kind of playing around with this for a couple of weeks trying to find what works, but I had a friend mention that he would be really interested in seeing an insight into how I edit. So I think I've done a couple of blog posts about that, maybe on my page, but also on helping writers become authors as well. So I'm just going to take a couple sheets out of my next Darby Shaw book and kind of show you some of the things that I go through when I'm editing. Things that are maybe a little peculiar to me. So maybe this will help you. I hope it will. So I am coming to you from my bedroom / office. So I apologize if you can see my messy bedroom, but I'm not that clean of a person most of the time. I mean, I am, but I'm not. So I hate to admit it, but it's true. Anyway, so fan behind me. I don't have ears or anything weird, but it's, yes, it is what it is. So let's get right into it real quick. So the next book in the Darby Shaw Chronicles happened about a month, 6 weeks after the end of Omission. There's one short story that came out since Omission came out, and I am planning on another one that I've edited, but I haven't sent out to beta readers yet, which, remind me, I need to do that. So, but this is a short story tentatively titled Escalation. I don't necessarily want to stick with that title, but it's kind of working title right now. So this is one of my manuscript sheets that I've pulled out, and I don't know if you can read it or not, which it's probably hard to see, but I print all of my manuscripts out at least once, sometimes twice, to go through them. So in here I have my normal markings. I mean, I've got, changes in words and, things that I need to double check, but I also like to make these little notes to myself. And when you're going through a 400-page manuscript, because Escalation right now is 184,000 words, I don't know if you realize that, but it is quite long, there's a lot of things that you might miss, and especially when you're trying to keep track of story that predates the book. I have to go back and check a lot of stuff for continuity and make sure that it's right. So like here, in the short story that I wrote that hasn't come out yet, I mentioned Holly Stack, and Holly was a small character in the short story. And Holly, if you haven't read the books, is the medical examiner in Kansas City. So in the short story, I mentioned that her grandmother passed away. So there was a question on whether she was going to be out of town for the funeral because her grandmother lives in Idaho. So in this manuscript page, she's in one of the first scenes. So I need to go make sure that my timeline is right so that she would be back by the time this story takes place. And if it's not the case, I need to make sure we get another medical examiner in and establish their character. So in here, I've got a note to myself that I need to check when this happened in relation to the previous short story. I also have a spot reminding me that if she is present, right there, it'd be a really good spot to remind the reader, hey, her grandma just died, maybe offer some further condolences or something. So I do those little kinds of notes to myself. The very next page, I have a lot more notes too. So I'm bringing in two new characters that will be a little bit more prevalent the next several books. Bao Yu, which Yu was mentioned briefly in Omission, and Lucian Anderson. Lucian actually was misnamed in, I believe, Retaliation. I believe we called him David. David is his middle name now. So I like the name Lucian. But Lucian and Bao are going to be in this book and probably in the next book pretty heavily. So I'm kind of bringing them in early on in this case. And I'm wanting to make sure that their dynamics in this book are proper, because Bao is the senior detective and Lucian is not. But in this draft, Darby is leaning a little more heavily on Lucian's thoughts and experiences than she is on vows, which is probably flipped. So I'm gonna have to go back and make sure that that is correct. And also, in this book, Mark turns 40. So I have to make sure that the timing is right, that I've got all the days lined up, and that, yes, this is actually going to encompass his birthday, and that we have it timed just right. So I have another note here that reminds me to check my timeline. I do a lot of timeline checking. I am not kidding you. It's kind of crazy sometimes because I wouldn't think that in this that I could play fast and loose and everything, but I actually have to check my timeline quite a bit. So there's a little sneak peek into some of my editing processes. I hope if you're a writer that this gives you some insight too, and maybe you can find some inspiration and look at things from a different perspective. I will go through my manuscript, and when I get through with it, maybe I will be able to send out another vlog with some more tips. So until next time, I will keep on writing, and you keep on writing, and keep on reading. Have a great one, guys.